People of the internet, if I may, I'd like to share with you a moment of honesty. Most of the folks browsing the AutoTrader marketplace right now looking at pickup trucks probably don't really need one. Maybe you're even one of them, and that is totally fine. These things have become lifestyle vehicles more than anything else these days, and they're not the work trucks they used to be. And in that way, the 2020 Jeep Gladiator may very well be the perfect pickup truck. So if you've got your heart set on a Gladiator, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. Skip the Rubicon and stick to this Overland model. Trust me, you will thank me later. Not only is the Rubicon going to get you a bunch of off-road goodies that you'll never use, but it's also going to give you a bigger fuel bill. And it's not necessary. I mean, I know it looks really cool, but it is a lot more expensive than this thing, and there's no point to it unless you're tackling some serious trails. Yes, those red tow hooks are cool. I know the bigger tires look neat, but you can add that stuff after the fact if you want. You probably don't need such an off-road warrior. Plus, this thing is plenty capable as it is. Now, you're probably asking yourself why I'm not heading out to a trail to show off that capability. And it's kind of a twofold issue. First of all, FCA Canada decided not to put winter tires on this thing, which means trails are a no-go this time of year. And besides, most Jeep owners don't use their mall crawlers to do anything worse than a gravel road, so what's the point in heading off-road when an on-road review is what matters most? So let's talk about how this thing is on the road. Now, Jeep's added about 19 inches to the wheelbase of the Gladiator compared to a four-door Wrangler, and that's really helped quell a lot of the issues that people have had in terms of drivability with body-on-frame Jeeps over the years. Yes, the steering's still pretty loose and dead on center. It still wanders a little bit and it takes more effort to keep it moving in a straight line, but it's definitely much smoother than body-on-frame Jeeps of the past. Now, more than just the wheelbase, the Gladiator is a lot longer overall than a Wrangler Unlimited, and that means a huge overhang around back that takes about 10 degrees off the departure angle of this thing compared to the stubbier Wrangler. Now, that long overhang on the back is obviously because of this bed bolted to the Gladiator. It's not quite as big as what's offered on other mid-sized trucks, but honestly, I don't think that's going to be a problem for most buyers. This thing is a lifestyle vehicle more than anything else. There's less room here than what's offered in the Ford Ranger as well as the Chevy Colorado, but there's more room than a Toyota Tacoma. How much that really matters to you? Well, that depends on what you plan to do with your Gladiator. If you're going to use this thing as a work truck, well, it's probably not quite going to cut it. But if you just plan to use it for camping, heading to the beach, or hitting the trails, I think it's going to be more than adequate. The same goes for the towing capacity. This thing has the tow package on it. That means it's got a trailer hitch as well as an engine cooling package. Now, the Overland model I'm driving, it's rated to tow 6,000 pounds. That's definitely not the most in this segment, but I'll tell you this much, it's probably about all I would want to tow in a mid-sized truck, and if you have plans to tow anything more, well, you should probably pick a bigger truck. Now, the Tester I'm driving has the 3-piece hardtop, and so wind noise is about what you'd expect from a vehicle that's about as aerodynamic as the broad side of a barn. It's not worse than a Wrangler, but it's definitely worse than your average SUV or pickup truck. And the same goes with fuel consumption. What can you expect from something that's just a box on wheels? Now, under the hood is the same 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 that's shoehorned under the hood of just about every Jeep, Dodge, and Ram vehicle it'll fit under. It's good for 285 horsepower to go with 260 pound-feet of torque. Numbers that don't jump off the page, but they're definitely adequate, and they actually motivate this thing pretty well. There's a lot of engine noise because of that lack of insulation, but it actually scoots pretty quickly when you accelerate off the line. Another thing I appreciate is that there's not a whole lot of wheel spin here. Even on a slick and slippery day like today, under normal acceleration, you don't have to worry about this thing getting too squirrely. Now, it's kind of cool that Jeep is sticking to its guns and offering a manual transmission as the standard gearbox in the Gladiator. An 8-speed automatic is optional, and that's what I have here. Now, it's not the transmission I would choose. I personally would go with that 6-speed manual, but I know most of you out there are going to opt for this automatic, and there's nothing inherently wrong with it. It knows what gear to be in most of the time, and it's pretty quiet and not all that complicated. Now, you can move the shifter over into a manual mode when you want, and that definitely comes in handy off-road. Now, because this thing shares most of its mechanical bits with the Wrangler, you get this manual transfer case, and it's a really cool old school way to engage the four-wheel drive system. You've got 2 high, which is what I'm in right now, and it's what I've spent most of my week in. And then you've got 4 high, which is good for most snowy roads, low traction situations, and most off-road trails. Then you've got 4 low. Now that's the real deal, off-road ready. If you're on a really tough trail or need to get over a serious obstacle, that's where you need to be. You're probably not going to spend much time there, but it is there if you need it. Now, it's really too bad FCA Canada did not put the proper tires on this thing to show off the capability, but trust me, it can do some serious damage out there. Looking at the rest of the controls, well, they're pretty well laid out, though it is a bit of a cramped space in here, so most of them are centrally located under this infotainment screen, and that includes the window switches. Now, if you've driven a modern Wrangler, you'll know that Jeep put power windows in, and it had to mount the switches here on the center stack instead of the door panel because these doors are removable. It's pretty cool, but it's also a little frustrating because I found myself continually reaching for the door panel when I had to unroll the window. Otherwise, everything else is pretty well laid out. You've got actual buttons for most HVAC controls, as well as these big chunky knobs to control the audio as well as the HVAC fan speed. They are a little hokey and a little gimmicky, but they are also kind of cool, and they feel the part of a proper Jeep. Jumping back to that infotainment system, well, it is one of the best in the business. It's running the latest version of FCA's Uconnect system, and it is pretty flawless. It isn't quite as responsive as some others on the market, but it's pretty good at what it does. My tester's got the optional 8.4-inch screen, and a 7-inch is standard on the Overland and Rubicon models. It's also got standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. Now, another feature I appreciated about this newest version of Uconnect are these quick access icons that run along the bottom of the infotainment screen. They're configurable, so you can change them up if you want to have your off-road pages or your heated seat and steering wheel, your CarPlay control, HVAC, you name it. You can put those along the bottom so you don't have to fumble through the infotainment menu to find them. In terms of other tech, well, there's not a whole lot of it here. Yes, I know this thing's a Jeep, but I feel like some people are going to be disappointed with the type of technology you can get in this thing. And the same goes with standard features. There's just not a whole lot of them. Jeep really knows how to add on the price when it comes to adding things you want. Heated seats and steering wheel, not standard in this thing. The same goes with leather seats. There's not a single model of the Gladiator that has standard leather. That's a bit of a disappointment, and I feel like it's going to hold some people back from buying one. Now let's talk about options, because there are a ton of them here, and my tester has about $12,000 in options, but advanced safety features like adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist aren't part of the package, which is absolutely crazy to me. But even crazier is the price. Now, like I said earlier, getting yourself a Gladiator is not going to be cheap. It starts at about 47 grand, which is the same price as an off-road ready Chevy Colorado ZR2. Even crazier is that my Overland model, well, it starts at $51,000, but with all those options, it sits at 63 grand, which is a ton of money. That would get you a Mercedes-Benz C-Class with a decent amount of features, and I just can't fathom buying something with plastic fenders and a Jeep badge on it for $63,000. To recap, some of the stuff I like about the Gladiator are the styling, the improved ride quality, and the go anywhere capability. Not that I was able to show it off. The stuff I don't like are the lack of standard features, the fuel consumption, and the ridiculous pricing. Now that the Jeep Gladiator is finally here, I can't see a single reason to buy a 4-door Wrangler, except for that cost conundrum. This thing starts at about $6,500 more than the already expensive Wrangler Unlimited. Not to mention, it's more expensive than any other mid-size truck on the market. But both as a pickup and a Jeep, the Gladiator delivers a lifestyle you can't find anywhere else.